for the delay on starting us up here, but we are live and getting ready for Marcel's talk on some pretty crazy stuff with Millenium Falcons and PlantUML. Marcel pitched this one to us. It took a little head scratching, but I think this is going to be awesome. So very excited to see what's going on there. So if you are not aware, you are at the CentralOhio.net developer group or our YouTube channel. We meet the fourth Thursday of every month, not the last Thursday, but it often is the last Thursday. And we are thankful to Central for hosting us and for the pizza, which will be coming in a little bit here. So we'll have some mid-talk break and some Q&A. Our organizers are Alan, myself, and good old Sam Gomez, the soccer dev, who is out at a soccer game with his kids. So we got like to give Sam a hard time, but by default, Sam is going to be giving all of our lightning talks unless you sign up for one. So think about that. Just by Alan and I voting just now. So we have a YouTube channel, 335 subscribers. We post. We like to live stream all of our videos, but I actually had the opportunity today to actually share your video for talk about Mediator with some coworkers. So that was very appreciated by them. So this is really good stuff. So if you missed something or you want to refer to something later on, we have that out there as a resource as well. We have a Discord group, which was Philip's idea. Thank you, Philip. That is there for if you want to post resources, links, questions, just additional opportunities, jobs, that kind of thing. Totally fine. So fun times. We do have some socials. Apparently we have some lag too. But we have some socials. We are on Twitter and we are on LinkedIn. We don't do a whole lot with either one, but we are there. If you want to help us with those, that'd be great too. But we are present on those platforms. That's helpful or relevant for you. Again, thankful for Central Insurance for hosting, for pizza. Thankful for .NET Foundation for covering our Meetup dues, because Meetup likes to charge people for using their platform. But we do get a lot of value from that, and people find us through that all the time. So we're thankful for them as an organizing tool and as a way for people to find us. JetBrains continues to give us a free license key every month, even though a lot of their tooling is now getting to be free for non-commercial use. So if you would like our JetBrains key for the month, raise your hand. Alrighty then. Well, I will get that right to you after this meeting. So that's great. So we are actually starting near the end of our year content-wise. Next month, we always have lightning talks in July. So we'll have roughly 6-ish talks for July. I think we had one sign up for that last month. Sam, Alan, and myself often will give ones if we don't have people interested in talking about something. But Phil, just to spite you now, I'm going to have to give my talk on Dungeons and Dragons. So you brought that on ourselves, but that's okay. So if you'd like to give a lightning talk, they are we say 5 to 10, 15 minutes, something like that, talking about something fun you've been learning, something fun you've built, something that's interesting to you. You can show a demo, you can talk about something, you can show a couple pieces of code, whatever is interesting to you or what you've been learning about. It's a fun way of doing something. Actually, I've been volunteering this year with Girls Who Code as a result of Ashley's lightning talk last year, which has been really cool. So that's been a lot of fun. So who here is hiring at the moment? So, improving is hiring. What's improving looking for?
They told me the other day and I just completely blanked. It's .NET, but specifically expertise in like Terraform and stuff like that.
So IAC, yep.
Yeah.
Leading Edge may be hiring some Java folks. I know we had that need. I'm not sure if we filled them all or not. But if you have a Java skill set or are just interested in future opportunities, come chat with me and I'd be happy to help you. That's Leading Edge, EDJE, named after our founders. So kind of cool stuff. And we used to have an employee who wore cowboy hats, but that's okay. And then final announcements. When it's Central, do what Central says. Bathroom is over there, so take a left after the stairs and then take your next 2 lefts. If you pass excellence, you've gone too far. And then we will be interrupting ourselves to have some pizza, but I'm going to bring Marsel up to talk what CI/CD, PlantUML, API documentation, and Franken matter all together. And I'm really excited about this one.
All right. Thanks for the intro.
Yeah.
Now that's going to be a little bit of a hodgepodge here of various items. Let me see if I can switch to my machine real quick. So, and thank you everyone for coming here. Take me just a second here to settle. So we have to switch machines. And this day has been kind of interesting. We had delays with the pizza. If anybody gets stuck downstairs, we'll get them hopefully sorted out. Let me know. And what is this? 16. 52. $49.52. One of these things.
It changed right when you
What?
the first I could still.
Hey, look at that. Let's share. And we can go straight to the top. All right, so
While Marcel's getting started, I also forgot to mention that Michael will be presenting for us in August on Azure Functions. Yes, sir.
I have to remember how to do this. It's been a while.
Maybe build a slideshow.
Thank you.
Go to
Hopefully this does.
Nope.
Nope.
And go to display settings at the top.
Ah, there it is. Yes.
Yep.
There we go. All right, so this is me. We're doing Millenium Falcon today with PlantUML. So I've been a developer for about 25 years. I'm newish to .NET, so be kind, be nice. That's what I said. I'm Columbus Strong, love insurance. I love the property. I love the casualty. All of it. All of it. So what's up? So we will be looking at two APIs, a LegoBuilder and a LegoBuyer. We're going to focus mostly on the LegoBuilder. I'm going to build like two gets and mostly try to document this out. There might be some time to actually go through the Millenium Falcon items, but what I'm trying to do here is actually help everyone be a better documenter. So it's kind of a bait and switch a little bit where I say things about building a Millenium Falcon, but we're actually going to learn about documentation, how to be better documenters with PlantUML. So sorry, switcheroo. So this usually kind of went through my head as every developer needs to sell occasionally. It doesn't have to be a lot, but they have to do it, and it has to be good, even to the robots. So with that in mind, building diagrams has always been difficult, and even if you ask something like to Copilot to build you like a C4 diagram out there, it's deficient, and you can't interact with it very well. So text-based interactions tend to be really, really important for two reasons. It's a medium for you to interact, and the second thing is control. And control is super important because we have it and we love it. So the team is actually inspired by Oops Millenium Falcon. So the idea here is that you can take any Lego set out there and build a Millenium Falcon out of it. So for example, you have the blue shell turtle here, which is a lovely set, by the way. And if you have it, you should not build the shell and build a Millenium Falcon out of it. And similarly, the My Little Pony setup over there, the Millenium Falcon, Star Wars. You can build a pony as well. Go on the Reddit. There's some fantastic options out there. So the idea here is that our APIs will simulate something similar. The focus is going to be mostly on Swagger and PlantUML. So with that said, what is PlantUML? So PlantUML is a very lightweight text-based tool for generating UML diagrams. And it enables developers to describe system architectural flows and interactions using simple syntax. So we can do sequence, we can do class, we can do use cases, components, and so forth. Works with plain text input, it generates graphical representations, it can be embedded into documentations and wikis. And before PlantUML, Mermaid, I don't know if anybody, I'm dating myself here, used DocPlus. Yes, no, okay. The big thing was Doxygen, around 97 it came out. And if anybody worked at Chase at the time, oh my God. So pretty much everything had to go through Doxygen, and we did quite a bit of it. And then Doxygen has been pretty cool. It has a very similar kind of UML-ish text-based language called latex. And you can kind of use it to describe your state transition diagrams. You can do sequences, you can do various other things. Pretty cool. But notable mentions also Sphinx for Python. It's gaining speed. MKDocs is pretty reasonable, not as used anymore. Natural Docs and DocFX. But that's kind of the evolution of things. Most people use Mermaid or PlantUML. It's about 50-50 right now with those languages out there. It's very simple. So I'm a graph guy. In my spare time, I do a lot of Sparkle. And I used to have a podcast where we did a lot of folks from Google and various other places. They would come in and we'd talk about graph and nerd it out on graph subjects. That's why I actually like PlantUML, because it's kind of a hidden graph in the background. If you don't know anything about graph, it's basically set up on the concept of triples. You have a subject, a predicate, and an object. And you can pretty much describe any database out there, any type of schema, and so forth. And guess what? In PlantUML, you have the exact same concept. You have a subject, predicate, and an object with a very, very hello world of that option. I need to speak to that. Is that what happens?
Just
okay. Sorry if I'm not. So it's very simple. You can, write that down, write that into any type of PlantUML lexer, and it will produce this for you. Class diagram is very similar. So you have, for example, a class of customer. If you do the plus and string and so forth, it will build this nice little diagram for you. Next one is a sequence, very much usable. So the key thing to remember with these items is to have very clean, swim lanes. If you need the swim lanes, that will be the alt setup. That's called the swim lane. Otherwise, you have the actual verticals, and you can get rid of the bottom part if you don't like it. I kind of like it, to be honest, because after a while you're just scrolling back and forth. So if these get like super big, you actually have to have the bottom at the top. But otherwise, it's pretty much what I produce. And if you have to, sell a small concept, I would rather spend the time over here in plain like language and interact with the LLM and be able to build this. And then I can go to a meeting or whatever it is and display this pretty quickly, and people are impressed. Components. So the key thing about components is they changed PlantUML recently, but you can do something called loud mixing, and you don't have to worry too much about where your stuff is positioned. So with allow mixing, it actually does a reasonable job. PlantUML prior to the 4th version was a little bit messy, so it would just throw everything everywhere. With allow mixing, it actually does a reasonable job. And yes, so for example, if you need to explain like a very boxy diagram over here with components, very quickly you can kind of get something out there. The key thing that I want to mention here is you can do these arrows and directionalize them. So you can do the right and the down and the down and the right and so forth. So that's pretty easy to use. And obviously you can do spaces with the quotes, and that's pretty nice as well. It also, as of lately, they have that syntax with the actual font where you can do the colors, which is awesome. So, and you know, like in the back of your mind, think an LLM. So like if you just drop this in, you got something very quickly and you can describe it. Use case diagram, so pretty common if you're trying to describe use cases and so forth. Specifically if you're trying to describe a bigger system, these can get super complicated. Notable mention here is around the actual building your objects first and then your relationships second. That tends to be super helpful. And yes, that's it about use case. I don't use them as much as possible. And activity has been a state transition in general, or activity diagram, or final state machines, some people would say. So you can build those beginning states, last states, and so forth, and be able to produce those fairly quickly. It has an if-else capabilities, so you can do conditionals and so forth. Questions so far, because I'm going kind of quick. I'm trying to kill time before the pizza. So anything that.
So is this all done in C# or is this way to like maybe like HTML code?
Yeah, so it's parsing its own language that it is over here. In the background, what it has is a little jar, so it's a Java-based compiled language. But it's, yeah, effectively, it has a little interpreter that will build this diagram and export it into a PNG or SVG file. Does this help? Yeah, go ahead.
A couple questions. It looks like you're not really telling it what type of diagram you're going to be doing most of the time. Is that roughly true?
Yeah, roughly true. You can direct it a tiny bit, but it's supposed to be very lightweight.
Yeah,
and kind
I
of
like that, yeah. With Mermaid, which is what I'm a lot familiar with, you have to say, I'm doing a state diagram, I'm doing a communications diagram. You can't really mix and match.
100%. That's a drawback and the benefit of it. So it's you're not, if you enjoy TypeScript, you'll enjoy Mermaid. But if you enjoy, more freedom, this is it.
Now, my second question is, where can I use this? What, like, Markdown has a lot of growing Mermaid support. Do you see a lot of tooling has support for PlantUML automatically?
Yeah, so actually the downloads are about, like, I was just checking the number of downloads of PlantUML on VS Code versus Mermaid, and they were 2.5 million for PlantUML and about 2.1 million for Mermaid, so it was about evens. But yes, to your point, there's a NuGet support, and I'll mention it in a minute. So you can actually build things with NuGet and so forth. So that's kind of in an upcoming slide. But yeah, jars, NuGet support, so you can do things at build time, you can do things in runtime. There's less webbish stuff, but you can do some JavaScript as well if you want to.
If I'm not mistaken, there's an extension for everything. But
yeah,
in VS Code, there's an extension for PlantUML, and in it you can specify where the server is that will do the rendering. And so then when you save the file, it'll automatically send it out, and then you get it back. I posted a server locally in Docker, and I just do like local host. That's cool. And but that kind of answers your question. Is you get that real time preview in good.
Because I'm thinking, like, can I use this in Confluence? Can I use this in like GitHub README file, like that thing, right?
Kind of, sort of, yeah.
This is nice.
Yeah. So I think what you have with your presentation that I watched with Polyglot and how you do some of the items, I wish we had like something in Polyglot that would do Mermaid a little better.
This is cool. I'm jealous.
Oh, okay. Also, state transition is pretty much the same stuff. So if you do star in like in angle parentheses, you're gonna get like a a final state. Everything else is pretty straightforward. Yeah, so you can define your state by saying state and so forth. Questions on this, comments, and deployment diagrams. So if you want like a cloud deployment for the cloud people here and so forth, you can do something like this. And finally, yeah, finally, like you can do a performance. I don't know who will do that, but you know, you can do a performance kind of diagram and say, okay, I started at 0 and went to like 50 and whatnot. And you can do pretty interesting things with it. I actually tried to do some ASCII rendering earlier, but it was pretty horrible on that. Okay, so very quickly, what is Swagger? I know most of you know what Swagger is, but effectively, Swagger is a way to allow you to describe your structure of your API. And what is an API? Something a machine can read and so forth. It uses OpenAPI, so the standard is OAS, and it's usually, this is the normal schema that you see for pretty much anything out there. The pet store is the most important one that everybody's familiar with. It has various versions. This is probably one rendition of it over here. You would see likely most people be familiar with paths, and most people be familiar with definitions, also known as components. Everything else is fairly descriptive, but if you want to define an API out there, you would need to somehow, one way or another, write a JSON like that or a YAML like that that will define your API, and Swagger will help you with that. So the sections are, you have a Swagger/OpenAPI, which describes that is what is being used, information section, host section, base path. So custom base paths, if you have like a V2 or some type of routing, tags where you can tag various things out there, schemes. So the schemes are WebSocket and HTTP ones, and the paths are HTTP style paths. So you have get those whatever out there. And then you have security definitions where you can set up your auths and so forth. And then finally you have the definitions for components. I know I'm breezing through this very quickly. I'll have the PowerPoint and I'll have the GitHub as well. So the highlight on the definition is just going super fast on this. I know most of you guys are experienced folks. But effectively, you can set up an integer string and another object. Oh no, what's going on? Oh, no, we don't know. We don't know if the pizza's here. So let me respond. Oh, now I have to two-factor because it's after 6 o'clock. So let's not do that. Because we're presenting, we can squirrel away. So if you want to do a definition that's a little more complicated, you can set up an object. And in the object, you can set up IDs, you can set up strings, you can set up other primitives and so forth. Why is that important? So that you can serialize something and deserialize it as you need to. So you don't have to define that class all the time. You just pass it in your components and definitions and be able to communicate to another machine that this is what you're exposing. So this would serialize and deserialize and so forth. I know I'm going super quick. What questions do you have? If you have any questions.
It could be kind of cool because I don't really think too much about the actual Swagger because I take advantage of things that generate it for me.
Yeah. I'm getting to that. I'm trying to get to that. But yes, absolutely. That's highlights on path. So this is kind of the raw vision of a get that you would do out there. So in my case, I'm building a Lego buyer and a Lego builder. So in this case, we have the API parts gets, and this is what the get looks like. If you have to type it up by hand, you'll have to do something like that. So as Matt was alluding to, most of us actually don't have to do that. And you can see building your schema is manual and painful, and nobody does it. So we're not developers. So what we would tend to do is the following to produce a Swagger documentation. So in this case, we have the concept of adding controllers, which everybody is familiar with some type of MVC. So we have the option to add controllers. As of .NET 6, Swashbuckle is not supported anymore, so now we have to do this add endpoint API Explorer, and then we have to do add Swagger Gen, which generates documents. And then usually these are the two things that you need to add in your program, and you get Swagger. So, and .NET 9 looks a little different. It's STS, but this is kind of what you have to do if you need to do .NET 9. And so my next one, Swashbuckle is not on Swagger anymore, so I actually prompted, what did I prompt? Oh yeah, I prompted Copilot to generate me a swashbuckler that has no swagger and decorate him with some .NET C# clothes. I'm not sure it shows up, but it has a .NET cape. It was really good. And then a VS Code buckle, and a Nougat pouch. It was really, I was like very impressed.
I remember trying to generate images a while ago, and it would never get words right. That's really good.
I know, I was very impressed. I was like, how did you read my mind? How did you?
Yeah, that's good.
So, but with .NET 9, so in the middle here is, you can just add swashbuckle back in, and it works. So scalar is an option, Postman is an option, and swag is also an option. And you can just make your Razor pages if you want to. It's always fun. So this is kind of an homage to They Might Be Giants, but why did Microsoft change it? I can't say. People just liked it better this way. But the real actual reason is that Microsoft claims that Swashbuckle's project is no longer actively maintained by its community owner, and issues have not been addressed. So that's the reason, but again, very usable, very much so.
They also did say, like, oh, shoot, we'll maintain it, we'll do what you need us to.
I know, right? Yes, there was a little bit of switcheroo, but so everything you're gonna see here is very transferable to .NET 9. So it's old but not obsolete. So the demo here is basically my first setup here, and hopefully I can do this really quick and painless, but this is what you'll see effectively being built. And go away, escape. I don't like your PowerPoint. So I built this to have like just a general class style project with a single solution. So we're going to graduate from 0 to 6. Hopefully we'll have time. But I'm going to go to the first one first and just run that .NET run here. Oh, come on. This keyboard that I have is missing a T, and it's a little fun to do this without the T being sticky. Normally I have a keyboard that is a keyboard, and that works fine, but in a pinch, that's what's going to happen. And, oh, okay. And let's go with Swagger. And that's it. So this is, you'll notice what I did was I just built .NET up and then brought my Swagger API. I'll go into the details of some of these in a minute, but what you'll see is kind of like the logo at the top, the version that it's being used, the actual Swagger.json that it produced over here, and the two gets that I've defined, and the schemas, the parts that I'm about to describe here in a second. So, and let's go back to the demo. Any questions about the demo so far? I'll describe the parts in a second. Okay. Where are we? And see if I can do this again. Now I learned things to create this. I don't know why it's going so far in. So the way I dealt with this was to get some information from, am I on the right slide? Yep. There's a really cool site which is called rebrickable.com, which has inventorized pretty much any Lego that's been produced since the 70s. They have the wooden Legos, they have the plastic Legos, they have all the inventory out there. It's pretty cool. So the brickable.com, I don't make any money from them, but yeah, they're pretty cool. So they have like this giant CSVs, and they actually have a pretty good schema with like parts, models, various things you can build, the Lego sets, and so forth. So you can order pretty much any type of random Legos and be able to kind of match them and build any Lego set out there. So what we'll be building is a CSV file, which is going to be our data store. It's not going to be a database, and it's from that place. And it has a service, and it has a model, and it has a controller with 2 gets. And what I just showed you was basically this project. And effectively, it has the part CSV, which is pretty much only the parts over here, nothing more than that. And it has basically these 4 columns. It's the part number, the name, the part cataloging ID, and the part material. So you'll see something like this. This is the actual part number, sticker sheet for set whatever it is, a part cataloging ID. So this is something that you can just go to the catalog, grab that catalog, and order whatever you want. And then finally plastic. It's made out of plastic. There's other materials out there as well. So the part service, pretty straightforward part service. So this is just a sync method that will return all the parts out there and something that will match on a part. Pretty horrible code, just doesn't stick. A parts model, which is 4 things that I just mentioned, with getters and setters, and finally a parts controller that will serve those 2 items out there. Questions so far? Nothing complicated, hopefully. So this is what it looks like in PlantUML, but like let's build this actually. So let's explain what we're gonna do. This is the actual PlantUML that I think it's all the code out there. But if we have to do step by step, what we do at first is we get some PlantUML specific icons that are good for a C4 type of diagram. If you haven't done a C4 diagram, I'm going to butcher it. It's basically containers. Oh, gee. I'm going to struggle on this. It's past 6 o'clock. So containers, there's the 4 of them. Components, and the other 2 are escaping me. But I use it all the time. So the system, so the next thing that I'm going to do is define a person. A person is somebody that uses the API client, and that's what's going to appear. The next part that I'm going to do is define the system. In this case, I have a system boundary, and it's a Lego inventory system, and that's kind of what's going to show up. So notice whatever I have at the top, this was the previous slide, so I had the API client, this is what describes it. The next portion is this over here. And now I'm getting a little more complicated. I'm setting up another boundary for the API components. So that makes the dotted setup on the side. And in there I have 3 components. I have a parts controller, parts service, and part model. And now that I've defined all my entities, did I define all my entities? No, some more. We have another boundary called API endpoints. And then finally, I am making the arrows for all of them. So I'm going to double check on the pizza here real quick. It's supposed to arrive by now. So, I'm sorry, Nathan or Jesse, do you mind checking the door? Make sure that
I'm also curious how many Lego sets you own.
not that many. I'm a pretty frugal guy, to be honest. So it's probably in the low tens. So why? You guys beat me in Lego set ownership?
No.
Okay.
If someone's passionate enough to build APIs around it, and yeah.
It's a little more passionate than property and casualty policy admin system. So it's, you have to make it more. Originally, this was in Python, so I had to like do a bunch of stuff. So no, nothing. Oh, thank you so much. So double checking on this. So okay. So this was 6 slides, so it's a little complicated, but it's now code, so it's controlled in your version control. You can put that file in your version control and keep it there together with your file, together with your project. And back to that original mention here, the LLMs can see it now, so the LLMs can interact with it, fix it when they need to, and so forth. So moving on, and this is the screenshot, and yes, you have 2.79 million downloads, and there's a VS Code plugin. There is several other, you probably know more IDEs than I do, Nathan, but I'm sure there's several other plugins for all the JetBrains folks out there. Yeah, we should buy more JetBrains, but yes, I'm sure they have. Mermaid has. Yeah. Oh no, Mermaid is more. So 29. Okay. So the documentation tools war has begun. So and it's 2.9 million. So the best part is there's a NuGet. So this is the exciting part. So you can get the NuGets out there, and this is where I get excited. I get really excited about that. So the reason is. Now you can actually interact with your AI buddy. Ooh, I heard noises. But you need to read it, and that's the important part. So we can now you can't always write the best documentation, but you always should read it. And that's the slide from Mitchell H., who passed away a long time ago, but. I kind of butchered it, but the original one is my belt holds my pants up, but the belt loops hold my belt up. I don't really know what's happening down there, who's the real hero. But I like to say it slightly differently, which is AI writes my docs and AI reads my docs. I don't know really who the real hero is. So that's where it's important, and this is the kind of the medium that actually helps me educate myself, interact with my documentation. So let's create diagrams at build time. So we now have a NuGet, and the NuGet is pointing to my PlantUML, and you can do something like that, which in this case will look at the file. It will look at the file as, I forget where it is. In the output directory, and then eventually it will produce as many PNG files that you need to, and it will throw them into your root folder. Now you can present it. But instead, we can do something more ugly, which is this. And notice you can put this directly into your project. And now, what's happening here? So for those who don't know, you can expose the www.roots folder directly and use something called static files, and then produce those files together with your Swagger documentation. And in this case, you can throw this into www.root images, whatever you're producing. So in this case, I have a Lego inventory C4 diagram. Very interesting. And then I'm actually using the DLL that's being produced there on the PlantUML.net. And eventually it will land all these PNGs during build time into your Swagger documentation. So why PowerShell here when we have like that beautiful? Because we're schlepping files around, and OS stuff is really good at schlepping things around. You don't have to go full C# all the time. So that's the reason behind it, and you can do it at build time. What did I do here? Oh yeah. So this is how you can enhance your Swagger documentation. That's probably the most basic way to do it, is you can put this bang and say what you want to place in there, and what it will produce is this rendition of that PNG into your Swagger documentation. And hopefully I have it right here. So this is what it looks like. So you have your Swagger.
I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah.
And now you
That's
have,
really cool.
and now you have your diagram in here, and then finally you have your stuff right here. So it's kind of a Swagger documentation that you can see and immediately know exactly what's happening.
So when you change your code, you build your project, that target runs, and then it's automatically updated.
Yeah.
Wow.
And hold on, because I'm getting ahead of myself, but that's the second portion of it. I think it's the second one, maybe it's the third one. I'm forgetting. And the pizza's not here yet. So yes, I think it's this one. So if I go to hopefully run this directly and go to mainline Swagger here and do a run, hopefully this builds, because I've been messing around with it too much. You can see some of the stuff is already committed, but some of it isn't. And now if I refresh this, I'm hoping I'm going to get the diagram in here. So this is what you're going to see. Now, how's that being produced? So, as I mentioned, I have my POMO here. So this is the PlantUML code that's out there. So if I change something in here, it will produce a brand new file out there. You also have the option to just generate it right here and see what it is. So it will create that diagram very quickly for you. So if I, for example, want to say, I don't want to be API client, I want to be, Marcel's, favorite API. It should do this on the spot. Hopefully. Maybe. Yeah, there you go. So now it changed, I don't know if you saw that, but it changed the rendition over here. And the code that I have, I believe, is in here in the project, unless I put it somewhere else. But now that's on the next one. So that's in the advanced one, hopefully. This is why I should stick to PowerPoint and not know further down the line. So, was it? Oh yeah, yeah. So this would actually produce that PlantUML.
So the PowerShell script is taking the PlantUML.NET NuGet package, which is the end project, and calling the DLL.
Yep.
Produce an image from your POML file.
Yes, exactly. So it's doing what I'm doing here very manually, but it's doing it at build time and it's throwing it in the PNG out there. So
if you get a feature request and you're screwing around in your API, you have to carry that into your PlantUML description or have an LLM do it.
yeah, so you can easily interact with this with an LLM and say, okay, I'm going to change the parts controller and I'm going to change another get. Make sure you update my POMO file and it will hopefully do so. So, all right, let's see. Pizzagate is still happening. It's 7 o'clock and we don't have pizza. I'm so sorry, guys. I have no idea what's happening. What's that? I hope. No, they should be driving to the. We have a very explicit instructions to them to drive all the way to the top. Oh no. Okay. So, I'll buy you guys lunch after that or whatever it is. Today we'll go to the. Yeah. No. So I'll make this quick. I promise. So that we can eat. So let's go through the next one, which is, oh yeah, so now you can run your imagination wild on this one. And now that you know how to enhance Swagger, you can do some pretty crazy stuff. which if you, oh, no, that's not what I meant to do, stop.
You do codes.
Yeah, so now you can go like full, like 90s style Lego inventory on your Swagger. So this takes a little bit of JavaScript that you can place in there. And I think I have it here real quick. Let's see if I can run it real quick. But effectively, you can go, which one did I have? Yeah, 90 style, that's the one. Hopefully should rendition the more complicated Swagger, but I didn't play with the CSS as much as I'd like, and as you know, CSS is something all of us appreciate coding. It's the most favorite language of them all. But yeah, that's it. So you can kind of see this is a legit Swagger that you can use, and it has a little surprise here. You can click on the surprise. Click on the surprise, and it should rain Legos. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. You don't want to step on them, but yes, you can see like at one point this was swerving around and like it was blinking different colors, and it was like a full 90s Gopher style, you know, like type of a website, but you know, that's as far as you can take it out there. But we're not gonna stop there, right? So the next thing is, why am I confused? I should be back in PowerPoint. I know, right? Hello, and let's go back here. And you can do custom HTML and routing. So, for example, if you want to, you want to make the static files that I mentioned earlier at the top, that will help you, as well as set up your routing prefix. So you can do API docs and whatnot. So if you don't particularly like to go to Swagger all the time, you can have it at the root level, whatever it is. So pretty handy, actually. So this is the actual location where you can place things in, www images. This is dynamically being produced and so forth. And this is kind of like various renditions of things that I did. This is probably my cleaner one. We have several APIs here in Central that we have more documentation on. So the key thing that I wanted to do was, as I was building the Swagger and I was building the Millenium Falcon, was to actually display the brick as I was going through each Swagger item. I thought that the visual portion of it would be really kind of extra, but I didn't want to build a razor page because I'm lazy, and I wanted to just be able to rendition that in the API. And you can rendition a little button here that will click on the button and produce that. Okay, I think we got the wrong number for Pizza Hut or something, and I think that's, I went through those slides quick, so I think that's it, and I'm at time. So, but I'm gonna not actually go and struggle through the last demo, but what questions do you have? Yeah.
So I got the big one. Is there any tooling to scan the objects and stuff dynamically to build out some of that for you?
Yes. So I was thinking about doing this, and actually somebody from Central, Patrick Crummy, did this with Roslyn and was able to kind of produce dynamic representation of everything you see out there on the solution. The problem with Roslyn that I personally think is control. Is it can go and just do everything that you have out there and just becomes a giant mess.
Yeah.
So that's where you can do some tagging, which is kind of cool. And you can say, for example, this is just a stupid repository. I don't want it in my diagram. Or this is like a bunch of getters and setters.
Yeah, something like just like public models that would be expressed on like the APIs or something like you could render out.
Yeah. So you can tag things and make it as, I mean, it's sweat equity. If you put the sweat equity in there, you can do various other things. So, yeah. Does this help? Questions, comments?
So on your previous slide,
Yeah.
you said that you could put a button on that page.
Yep.
How do you do that? Like, where does the code for that live?
So anything is injectable in this HTML. So the HTML for Swagger, and if you can read through the docs itself, but effectively is this 8-index HTML, and it has a couple of parts to it. So it has the Swagger UI build min.js, and it has the Swagger UI standalone presets min.js. Now that's the stuff that controls the definitions and the routes that I showed you earlier. If you use those JavaScript, and you can CSS and JavaScript your way out of that wet paper bag that it is, and get yourself to pretty much rendition buttons, make anything, make a full UI if you want. As you can see, why Microsoft doesn't particularly like this, because it might have some security problems if you put it in production. So that's partly the problem that they ran into. There's some CORS issues and definitely a few other problems that makes this not production worthy. Does this help?
It's still cool. It's still weird, but it's cool.
Yeah.
I promise I will have a follow-up where we are actually doing some of the building and Millennium. Maybe a lightning talk. I don't know about that.
Lightning talk?
We'll see. Questions, comments?
So I'm familiar with having to host a jar file either in a Docker container or something like that. But the NuGet package doesn't need that?
No, the NuGet package is by itself, the DLL. It's effectively the same thing. But yeah, I have the jar file here, and I use Choco and Winget, but I have it somewhere in my Choco directory. I have a jar file that you can download. I think the DLL version follows the jar version, so it's like one below, one ahead, whatever it is. But yeah, they're pretty close together, and the fellow that produces the NuGet keeps up. Yeah. Questions, comments? Hungry people? I'm sorry. This is totally unorthodox, as Jay Leno would say. Anything else? Good. Thank you. Thanks for coming. You cutting off this?
Yeah, just a second.